Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1681B, and today's date is October 4th, 2018, and the title of the episode is, It's Almost Time for the Pain, Start the Clock, D5 Red October. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, we are getting closer and closer to the time where this D5 avalanche is going to hit, and we're going to see a red October. And I don't believe it's just a red wave. I think there's many other things that are involved in this. It's the D-class, the resignation of Rod Rosenstein, the indictments being opened up, arrests being made, and I think this is just the beginning stages. And I believe the countdown has started because we can see everything is moving forward right now. And I know a lot of people are losing patience with the whole process because they just want to see arrests. They just want to see people go to jail for their crimes. But you can't do things like the deep state, the mainstream media, where you use propaganda, lies to say that someone did something, because it doesn't hold up in a court of law. And the rule of law, you need to have an airtight case. You need to have evidence. You need to have facts. You need to point to say, there's no way out of this because here's your signature. And once you have all this and you have all the information, these people have no place to run. And I believe this is what Q, Trump, the Patriots, Huber, Sessions, Horowitz, this is what they've been busy doing. They've been preparing, gathering, collecting, analyzing, and putting everything together so they can have an airtight case. Because you don't want to bring all these people to trial and they're able to get off. So you need to make sure that you have everything in line. You dotted every I and crossed every T. But we can see that they are becoming very, very desperate. I'm talking about the deep state. And during the Dr. Ford Kavanaugh hearing, we reported that Representative Sheila Jackson Lee handed an envelope to one of the lawyers for Dr. Ford. And of course, they came out and they said it was a list of names of women who wanted to come in, but it was done very secretly, like she was handing it to him and then she disappeared into the crowd. You can see this on the video. But what's very interesting is that someone released personal information on certain senators, Lindsey Graham, Mike Lee, Orrin Hatch, and it was posted to Wikipedia during the Supreme Court hearing for Kavanaugh. And the IP address pointed to the House of Representatives, and everyone thought it was Maxine Waters. For some reason, I still believe she is involved in this, but it actually went back to Representative Sheila Jackson Lee. Now, she was the one that handed the envelope to the lawyer. Now, a staffer or an intern who's 27 years old, Jackson A. Costco of Washington, D.C., has been charged with witness tampering, threats in interstate communications, unauthorized access of government computer, identity theft, second-degree burglary, and unlawful entry. Costco, who was fired after his arrest, worked for Senator Maggie Hassan, Barbara Boxer, and Dianne Feinstein. And she worked for Sheila Jackson Lee. So this is very interesting because we can see it did come from this area. And right now, the individual was caught. Now, I wonder if they're still investigating because I believe it's just more than one person. Because this person just didn't do it by themselves. Most likely they had help. Now, yesterday we talked about Miss Monica McClean and how she had a connection to Blasey Ford. She was her best friend, and Ford was in the same area during the time the letter was being written on July 30th. She was in Delaware, and that's where McClean lives. Now, very interestingly, no one really saw McClean during the hearing. No one mentioned McClean during the hearing. But there is a video that shows her walking in with the team. She is part of this. So she did attend the hearings. And when you look at the videotape, you can see her walking in, walks right by Ford, and then takes a seat. So we know right now that all of these pieces, they're starting to fit together. And it looks like she was part of this entire agenda. And she was there while she was testifying. Very interesting. The FBI right now, they reached out to about 10 people during the Kavanaugh probe, and they found no corroboration of sexual assault claims. The FBI now turned over their completed Kavanaugh report to the White House, and we know that they're looking to have a vote, and Q has already told us that the vote is going to be 53 to 47. So we can see that things are moving forward, and Kavanaugh most likely will be confirmed. And once he is confirmed, you will start to see everything moving very quickly. You will see the D class. You will see Rod Rosenstein. Goodbye. You will see the indictments. You will see the news trying to cover this up. Remember, the mainstream media is not on board with any of this. They don't want to report any of this. They'll try to sidestep all of this. That's why in the mainstream media, all you hear about is that Kavanaugh lied about drinking. Kavanaugh was a drunk. He lied under oath about his drinking. If you notice, they turned everything into lying and drinking now, which is absolutely ridiculous. This took place in high school and college, and that's all they have left because their entire case is falling apart. The other witnesses, that whole thing is starting to fall apart. Now, a couple weeks ago, Trump mentioned that China, they are the biggest threat to the United States. China was stealing our secrets, spying on the United States. Now, of course, the mainstream media, they just shrugged this off. Oh, here he is once again telling everyone that China's behind all of this. China is the one who's hacking our elections. And it turns out that the mainstream media did a little research, which is very odd. And this is coming out of Bloomberg Businessweek. And this corroborates what Trump was saying, that China infiltrated U.S. corporate and defense infrastructure. Most notably, it confirmed that in addition to efforts designed to sway U.S. elections, China's intelligence community orchestrated a pervasive infiltration of servers used to power everything from MRI machines to the drones used by the CIA and Army. They accomplished this using a tiny microchip no bigger than a grain of rice. Now, the government has been looking into this, and they found that this tiny microchip, well, it's widely used throughout the U.S. military and intelligence infrastructure, from Navy warships to the Department of Defense server farms. This is very interesting. These microchips were inserted at Chinese factories that supplied Supermicro, one of the world's biggest sellers of server motherboards. The comprised motherboards were built into servers assembled by Supermicro. The sabotaged servers made their way inside data centers operated by dozens of companies. But perhaps the most galling aspect of this whole scandal is that the Obama administration should have seen it coming. Now, this happened during his administration, well before evidence of the attack surfaced inside the networks of the U.S. companies. American intelligence sources were reporting that China's spies had plans to introduce malicious microchips into the supply chain. So Obama dropped the ball. China managed to pull off the most expansive infiltration of the global supply chain ever discovered by U.S. intelligence. Now, let's think about this for a second. Obama was president. We had Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. She had this server that was not secure. Countries were allowed to access her server and steal information. China was one of those nations. We saw our military jets fall out of the sky. We saw other military assets have major problems. So, who is behind all of this? Obama and Clinton. Remember, the deep state, they have infiltrated many different countries. And they're in the intelligence organizations of these countries. And you can see that the Chinese were being directed to do this. And this is why Trump is calling them out. Because as we can see, the Trump administration, the Patriots, they know it all. They know exactly what's going on. So here we are right now. It's all coming undone. Now, Q, if we go back to post 855, Q has warned us of this and mentioned this many, many times. Post 855. America has been sold to the highest bidder. America has been weakened on purpose. The depths of their treason is unimaginable. Post 1958. Q says, China hacked Clinton's server. False. She gave them access. You have more than you know. Post 1982. Starting in 2010. Clinton's Secretary of State, 2009-2013. Coincidence? Think server. Granted. Money talks. Q is referring to the New York Times article. China, CIA spies, espionage. They knew what was going on. Q has been telling us this. And we can see at this point, it's all starting to fall apart. Out in Syria, it looks like the U.S. Marines are now being sent into areas to join the ground offensive, and they're fighting against the paid mercenaries. This is not the same mission that Obama ran, where he controlled the paid mercenaries. Trump has gave command to the Pentagon. They are now calling the shots, and they're going after the terrorists, just like Russia. They're working side by side. Now, very interesting, there's a new report by the government, and it says worldwide terrorism deaths have decreased by 27% last year. Now, don't you think it's funny? As Trump became president in 2016, terrorism was off the charts. We saw it everywhere. When things started to get locked down and the Patriots took control, terrorism started to disappear because we knew who the terrorists were. They were our intelligence community. This was the deep state. They were creating the terrorism to scare the American people. Now, as Trump and the Patriots have been in power right now, what has been happening? They've been shutting down all of this, their access, their ability to push certain events. Yes, they still can, but not as many as before. They can't control the paid mercenary armies out in other countries. It's becoming more and more difficult. Why is it becoming more difficult? Because right now, the U.S. military is going after them. Before, the U.S. military was told, hands off. Times have completely changed. And we can see, and what this means, is that the deep state, they are losing power. And all this terrorism was created by the deep state. Actually, once the deep state is finished, we're going to see a lot of these incidences like shootings and other events kind of die down because they won't have the power to do this anymore. Let's get into Q's post, and I want to go back to post 2310. And back in this post, we had Trump tweet where he was going, heading to West Virginia, heading to Ohio, and Q came out and said, I am now telling you where POTUS is going to be. And we can see this was a confirmation, but what's very interesting about this, when you take all these locations, West Virginia, Ohio, Iowa, Missouri, South Carolina, and you draw on a map around these whole areas, you know what letter it is? It is the letter Q. This is another confirmation. Q is letting us know that they're in line with each other. And at Find Truth Q is the one that posted this on the Twitter feed, and that was a really good find. Let's move on to post 2321. Q put up a link to Freedom of Information Act, state government. And Q says, page 20, Assange arrest by Marty Tory, Mad Hatter, Q. So when we go to the site, it has a list of all these different emails. So we went to page 20, and it says unclassified U.S. Department state case number, and it gives a case number. And under it, it says, from Marty Tory, subject Assange arrest. And this was addressed to Hillary Clinton. It has her email right there. And it says, been waiting to hear this great news. He must have made your life miserable. Simply a bad guy. So tired of people who try to change the U.S., while the U.S. does so much for others. Ah, where is the justice and common sense these days? Hope all the current world madness somehow gives you time to prepare for Christmas and enjoy the simple things. Took, and this is unredacted, to pick out Christmas tree last weekend. If there is better stuff, then I don't know what it is. Anyway, hope the WikiLeaker gets what is coming to him. Happy Christmas, Preps, M. So this is Marty writing to Clinton saying that he hopes Assange is arrested because he dumped all the emails, dumped the information. Post 2322, Q put up a YouTube video, told us to look at 1335. We saw this before, but here it is once again.
For interviews of Trump officials based on leaks that they planted in the media. So it's like this feedback loop in order to get the Trump folks. This is they call Trump an autocrat? This is maddening.
As I've been saying for 2 years, there was a brazen plot to illegally exonerate Hillary Clinton in the email case, and then if she lost, to frame Donald Trump. And that is exactly what these texts are about. Whether or not Mr. Strzok and Lisa Page and others are indicted is certainly a question people can debate. But let me just say, I know that there is a grand jury underway. Testimony is being taken about Strzok, Page, McCabe, and others involved in this case. And the reason we know it is that James Baker, the former general counsel of the FBI, has turned state's evidence and is fully cooperating with the inspector general and with the federal grand jury. I can assure you, Mr. Comey has been very silent in recent weeks, and the reason is very simple. He knows he's going to be indicted.
Wow, pretty explosive on a Friday night.
And then Q continues, did James Baker just testify behind closed doors? Rod Rosenstein and James Comey coordinated to appoint Mueller. What a wonderful day, Q. Basically saying that Baker just gave these individuals up and pretty much laid it all out behind closed doors. Post 2323. Q put up everything from post 2322 and said the following. James Baker closed door testimony today plus previous to Inspector General, grand jury statements, an arrow pointing to sealed, pointing to timed, R.E. Sessions subpoena tomorrow. If Sessions is recused from Russia probe, prevented record of related docs, info, etc., how can Sessions learn Rod Rosenstein conflicts, R.E. Russia probe, per subpoena to Sessions, Schedule 1, McCabe memos. Then gave the link to Sessions' subpoena where he has to show up and supply all this information. McCabe memos equals source docs for New York Times article. Rod Rosenstein, wear a wire, 25th Amendment, enjoy the show. Basically what Q is saying is this is how Jeff Sessions will unrecuse himself from the Russian probe. He's going to use McCabe's memos, the docs, the information, and show that, yeah, I can unrecuse myself right now, and he will learn what Rod Rosenstein has done. He already knows. 2324, Q put up a previous post, 2070. What is the common theme when bad news is about to break against them? Stay vigilant. Under it, Q says, tensions flaring, gave 2 links, and says, tolerant left Q. Basically, the first link is Fox News. Capitol Hill tensions flare over Kavanaugh as protesters confront lawmakers. The other link is a tweet from Breaking 911. 5 officers shot, active shooter. 3 Florence County deputies and 2 Florence City police officers have been shot in an active shooter situation in the Vintage Place subdivision off of Hoffmeyer Road in West Florence, South Carolina. Now again, Trump was in South Carolina, and we can see that the deep state, what they like to do is they like to cause chaos. And that's what Q is saying, that they like to push chaos in all these different areas. So bad news is about to hit. Kavanaugh is going to be confirmed. D-class, we're going to see resignations. Session is going to unrecuse himself. We're going to see Red October. And this is why we see chaos, because they know what's coming. Post 2325. Q put back up the same things from post 2322, and under it gave us a link to Fox News, and that is top FBI lawyer Baker offers explosive testimony on abnormal handling of Russia probe into Trump campaign. Under this, it says, read carefully. Sessions tomorrow, doc related. Justice K confirmation, weekend. Rod Rosenstein next week. Probe not updated. Follow the pattern. Arrows pointing to red. October, arrows pointing the other way. Red October is in all caps. So let's read the first part of this article about top FBI lawyer Baker offers explosive testimony on abnormal handling of Russia probe into Trump campaign. Some of the things that were shared were explosive in nature, Representative Mark Meadows said. This witness confirmed that things were done in an abnormal fashion. That's extremely troubling. During the time that the FBI was putting that Department of Justice and FBI were putting together the FISA surveillance warrant, during the time prior to the election, there was another source giving information directly to the FBI, which we found the source to be pretty explosive, said Representative Jim Jordan. Meadows and Jordan would not elaborate on the source or answer questions about whether the source was a reporter. They did stress that the source who provided the information to the FBI's Russia case was not previously known to congressional investigators. Baker is at the heart of surveillance abuse allegations, and his deposition lays the groundwork for next week's planned closed-door interview with Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. Baker, as the FBI top lawyer, helped secure the Foreign Intelligence Service Act, FISA, the warrant on page, as well as 3 subsequent renewals. Prior to the deposition, Republican investigators said that they believe Baker could explain why information about the British ex-spy behind a salacious Trump-related dossier, Christopher Steele, and Steele's apparent bias against the then-candidate Trump were withheld from the FISA court, and whether other exculpatory information was known to Rod Rosenstein when he signed the final FISA renewal for Page in June 2017. So right there's another individual that they didn't even know about, and they can't reveal this person's name as of yet. This is very interesting. Let's move on to post 2326. Q put up, panic in D.C., James Baker testifying against Comey. And then Q went on to say, it takes time to reach the public domain. Yes, it does take time, because the mainstream media, they're not really reporting on any of this, but they do comment on Trump's tweets. And this is why Trump is out there tweeting a lot of this, because the mainstream media then will comment on that and people will hear it. But the mainstream media right now, they are not reporting on a lot of this stuff. Why were the McCabe memos released to the New York Times with 3 arrows pointing to Rod Rosenstein wear a wire? Because they wanted to push Trump into firing Rod Rosenstein. Insurance, yes. Cross the red line and the deep state would take action. Was it a threat? Q says. Threaten Trump and the Patriots. Q says, what did they think was about to drop? Q says, think declass. The deep state thought the declassification was coming. So what did they do? They put this article out. Actually, they wasted ammunition. Q says, did the delay and smear tactics used by the D's, re. Justice K, help Republicans, re. public support, endorsement, re. confirmation, and November 6th election? Yes, it did. Because it's turning out that this whole case against Kavanaugh basically is fake, phony, and false. Did select D's expose themselves, re. leaks, release of confidential personal info? And then Q put C, D, and then in brackets, capital letter F. So yes, showed that this was part of their agenda, They leaked all the information. It backfired. And I believe the F stands for Feinstein, who is the confirmed leaker. I believe this is what Q is saying. If you know your opponent's move, you know how to counter them. Red October, Q. So we can see right now, they were anticipating all of this, and they kind of set these individuals up. Yesterday, we talked about a sting. I believe Kavanaugh was out there, and they were using him as bait to have these individuals leak information, and they wanted certain individuals caught because they were watching, recording every minute of every day of what they did. Post 2327. And Anon put up a tweet from Paul Sperry. Breaking. The U.S. Senate has unanimously passed S. Resolution 610, calling for the declassification and release of tens of thousands of pages of documents relating to Saudi Arabia and the terrorist attacks of 9/11. And Q under this gave us a link to congress.gov, 115th Congress, Senate Resolution 610. And then Q says, sponsor with a question mark, not what you think, Q. The sponsor of this bill is Senator Blumenthal. Remember Trump went off on Blumenthal where he said he lied about Vietnam, being in Vietnam. So Blumenthal introduced this bill on August 21st. So he had this in his back pocket, and now he reissued it, and it's going to be used as a distraction. Now, there might be something in this report that will be used to delay or remove Kavanaugh or to distract from everything. This is not the proof that the Saudis or Israel or Bush, the deep state, did 9/11. This is a distraction tactic. And this is why Q says, not what you think. Post 2328. And Anon put up the Punisher with the American flag. Do it, Q. United we stand, strong together. Q says, we are honored. Anons are selfless, nameless, faceless, fameless, and fearless. We are grateful. Q. And I believe at this point, everyone wants this information to come out, and I believe they've been setting this up, and it's been taking quite a while. Remember, you have to figure out what these people are up to and how to connect all these dots and figure out how they did certain things. And I think it took quite a while to do this, but I think they have everything now. And this is why we're going to start the clock here. Post 2329. Q put up a link to thehill.com, said read carefully. So this is collusion bombshell. DNC lawyers met with FBI on Russia allegations before surveillance warrant. And this reads, the growing body of evidence that the FBI used mostly political motivated, unverified intelligence from an opponent to justify spying on the GOP nominee campaign just weeks before Election Day has prompted a growing number of Republicans to ask President Trump to declassify the rest of the FBI's main documents in the Russia collusion case. House Speaker Paul Ryan, House Freedom Caucus leader Mark Meadows, and Jim Jordan, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, veteran investigator Representative Trey Gowdy, and many others have urged the president to act on declassification, even as FBI and Justice Department have tried to persuade the president to keep documents secret. Ryan has said he believes the declassification will uncover potential FBI abuses of the FISA process. Jordan said he believes there is strong evidence the Bureau misled the FISA court. Nunes has said the FBI intentionally hid exculpatory evidence from the judges. And Meadows told the Hill's News morning television show Rising on Wednesday that there is evidence the FBI had sources secretly record numbers of the Trump campaign. A couple things stand out here. First of all, Paul Ryan. He's not running for election. He's pushing for this. Jim Jordan is pushing for this. But when you look at what they said about each person, now Paul Ryan, he's the House Speaker, said he's the House Speaker. For Mark Meadows, he's the House Freedom Caucus leader. And the rest, they had their titles. But very interestingly, for Trey Gowdy, he's the veteran investigator. Does that mean he is investigating something right now for the declassification? because that's what stands out to me right here. And why wouldn't they say like chairman of oversight or something like that? Why did they use the word veteran investigator? I think he's part of this and he's investigating a lot of this. So where are we? Well, everything is about to come out. Q has been telling us Red October. Here we are in a Red October. It's not just about a red wave. It's about everything. And this is why Q says D5 Red October. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.